Welcome to BXP. I'm David. Today, budget cranks, bottom brackets, chain rings. Closer look, crank arms, solid. They're aluminum alloy, or they're just called alloy actually by the description. All this together was about $50. I mean, I don't foresee any kind of breaking. I know that some people experience bending, maybe, but I mean, you're talking about a lot of force being applied, and if there were to be bending, it'd probably be occurring here or here, since this probably the weakest point just because the metal is the thinnest at this location. Right here, this is kind of your lever here, so if you have your pedal here, that's where it's going to likely bend, is right there. But again, I think it's unlikely. I mean, the probability is probably going to be low. If it does bend, your consequences is that you'll probably just have a bad ride. I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything like a fork failing or anything like that. Bottom bracket, again, undisclosed aluminum alloy, or alloy actually. Give you some 2.5mm spacers, give you 3 of those. There's nothing much to these. They're enclosed bearings. They're fine. I've used these before and have had no issue there. They mark them left and right, give you a torque value on them also. This will fit the 24mm shaft that matches up with this crank right here. You have the chain ring, that's 7075 T6 aluminum. They printed that right on there. This is a direct mount, so what's going to happen is that this is going to directly mount to here. There's no spider, which is those 4 prongs that you've seen in other cranks. It just allows you to get to smaller chain rings. This is a 30 teeth, so it's going to help me climb a bit easier. Again, smaller in the front, larger in the back, make climbing easier. Opposite of that makes going downhill or getting that speed. So as I said, I don't think there's any issue here in regards to high risk or high consequences with this. Overall, the crank really is just a dummy part. In fact, it's a non-moving part if you think about it that way. There's no moving parts on here. The chain ring's gonna be bolted onto the crank arm. This other arm gets here. Sure, this whole thing moves, but there's actually no moving parts on this, so this is really all just dummy metal. The only moving parts are really going to be on the bottom bracket where the bearings are located. So again, risk is just low probability of failure, low consequences if there is a failure. Next, let's put the left side on first. So find the one that has left indicated on it that you see here. I'm just gonna go ahead and go nuts on the grease here because why not? So one thing to remember is that one spacer on the non-drive side, which is the side that does not have the chain ring. Drive side, 2 spacers. If you want, go ahead and grease this guy up too. So one thing I remember is that left side screws on clockwise to go inward. This side here on the drive side, it's going to be the opposite direction. So as you can see here, you'll be turning this counterclockwise to start throwing it into the frame. And tightening with the torque wrench, just tighten it until it clicks, and then you're good. Just like this. Put the chain ring on. Make sure you align the 2 holes here, the 1 hole there, 2 slots there and there. Already put some grease on these screws here. Set them and then just tighten them up. Next step, grease up the spindle, grease up the splines at the edge, slide it right through, just like that, all the way. Notice that little index right there. Slide on the other crank arm. Install this little end nut here, which pushes the crank arm toward the center. And once you do that, extremely similar to installing the stem, you tighten this, and then you're good to go.